let me show you how to solo the Reckoning's Richtofen boss fight for Call of Duty Black Ops 6 Zombies. Right, so before we actually do get into this, let me just say that this, in my opinion, is the second hardest boss fight in all of Zombies history, which of course the first is Mephistopheles. Which then the reason that I say this is because every single one of Richtofen's attacks literally has the ability to two-shot, if not one-shot you. So, that being said, keep in mind that even I had to take a few tries to actually beat him, but we did get it done. However, let's go ahead and get into the guide now. So, step one, of course, is to load in the map with the Maelstrom, and you're going to want to use the attachments that I have below. But for Richtofen, you do not want to use the slugs, even though I am being told that they will do a lot of damage to Richtofen. Unfortunately, in my opinion, the downsides that you're going to receive from this in Richtofen's boss fight are just not worth it in my opinion, which that just boils down to the fact that slug rounds are less powerful at taking out hordes of zombies, and in Richtofen's boss fight, you're going to need to take out as many zombies as you can. Other than this, if you want to, you can take in the DM10 or the AMR Mod 4 with the attachments that you see below, but keep in mind that while these both are going to give you more DPS than the Maelstrom, they both are extremely unpractical to use in the actual like Easter egg run. So if you are going to use a DM10 or an AMR Mod 4, then I highly recommend that you get the Maelstrom out of the box as well, which it is the most common box item, so it shouldn't take very long. Which then for the final tidbit on that, if you do bring in two things, keep in mind that it's probably going to take you to about round 30 to get them both fully leveled up. So if you want to go in on a much lower round, then just bring in the Maelstrom. However, with all that out of the way, let's now go over the augments that you're going to want to use, which I'm going to really quick show you guys on the screen now. And then with that now out of the way, let's finally go over the last thing, which is going to be the Gobblegum setup. So for this, I'm going to recommend that you bring in a power keg, a raindrops if you have it, and if you don't, just bring in an Insta. And then you also probably want to bring in something like an Arsenal accelerator, which then with all of that out of the way, let's get to what everybody's here for. So, before you actually go into this boss fight, you want to make sure, of course, that your Maelstrom is pack 3 and legendary, which then in the pack room, you also want to make sure that you grab a 3-plate off the wall. And then the last thing that you want to grab is obviously a self-revive if you don't already have one. And then you want to craft both a C4 and some smoke bombs. Now, after this, you want to head over to the biolabs and you want to find the tank that is closest to the perk machine in this room. What you want to do now is throw all 3 of those C4s up on top of that tank, which we will get back to this later. And then it is at this point that every single piece of prep is done, so go ahead and load into the boss fight. All right, so for phase 1, this is extremely simple. As soon as that elevator does rise up, you want to, of course, just start laying into Richtofen, which then your first goal is to try and break both of those shoulder pads. Now, keep in mind that the closer that you are to him is technically going to be better because most of the time he's just going to try to punch you, which is very easy to dodge. But if you do see his arms start to do this motion here, you want to then immediately turn and run away so you don't get hit by his electrical attack. If you do get hit by this electrical attack, it is going to drop your health very fast. Now, while you are running around, however, I recommend that you try to always keep him in like your peripheral or whatever, or try to ping him if you can, which will really help out. Which then, aside from that, once you have fully broken off both of his shoulder pads, you now want to focus directly on his faceplate. Eventually, you're going to break the glass that is in front of his face, which is then going to give you huge damage numbers on Richtofen himself. And then eventually, Richtofen's going to have enough of this, and he's going to call in a bunch of Klauses that are going to try to find you and explode near you. So, what you want to do at this point is just focus on them first to take them all down and get them out of the way. Which then also at some point after this, Richtofen is going to then call in some Uberklaus cores, which then on top of trying to find you and explode, they're also going to try to shoot you with that electrical attack. So once again, just focus directly on these guys and get them out of the way first. If you do then get an Uberklaus, what you want to do is leave him alone. If you do leave him alone, you're only going to have to deal with the single Uberklaus. If you take out this Uberklaus, it's going to then spawn in more that you're going to then have to deal with. However, all that being said, once you get down through Richtofen's first health bar, this is when things are going to get super difficult. So Phase 2, Step 1. The second, and I mean the second that you see him pop out of that suit, you want to use your first Aether Shroud, which then, if you have equipped those augments that I showed you earlier, you should now be shrouded long enough to get through the first quarter of his health, which then we are now at the point where I was having the trouble and this was taking me forever to get him done. So what's now going to happen is one of two things, which then if you still see that health bar for Richtofen on the screen, what's going to happen is he's going to go up into the sky and he's going to come right back down. So So if you do still see that health bar on the screen, you want to make sure that you do not stop running at this point. Like I said before, is what's going to happen is he's going to go up into the sky and you should hear this sort of alarm sound, and then he's going to come back down and do like an air raid drop near you. He's then going to go back up into the sky and come back down one more time, but this time he's going to land and he's going to immediately start shooting you with his Wonder Waff, which will one-shot you. So if this has happened and he has come down quickly and you still don't have a shroud, what you want to do then is use that power keg you brought in, or if you did do the C4 trick, go ahead and double tap that button, which should give you a free Aether Shroud. Now, at this point, of course, just immediately use the Aether Shroud and then focus fire directly on Richtofen, and once again, you should be able to take out another quarter of his health. On the flip side of this coin, if you had seen his health bar disappear when he went up into the sky, well, that's great. You now have 2 minutes to get your Aether Shroud back. So what you now need to do is run around and use your time very wisely and very quickly to eliminate any zombie that you possibly can in order to get your Aether Shroud back before Richtofen comes back. However, if by the time you hear this sound that you're hearing in the video below and you do not still have your Aether Shroud, well, of course, just run around and continue to eliminate zombies and try to get it. But at this point, when he lands, you're gonna really need to be very careful and hide behind any and every single wall. Do not let Richtofen get a line of sight on you, which then also at this point, you can throw down a smoke bomb, and if no zombies saw you go into it, you will be hidden from both the zombies and Richtofen for a few seconds, which will give you precious time. Now, the key here, of course, is that on each phase of Richtofen, when he comes back down from the sky, you want to try your best to have an Aether Shroud. That way you can just immediately take down another quarter of his health. So then on the second time, when he leaves and comes back, if you still do not have an Aether Shroud, well, at this point, it might be time to use that raindrops if you brought it in. Or of course, then if you still have that power keg and you use the free C4 one, go ahead and use that one first. Which then this is essentially the loop for Richtofen. You essentially need to make sure that he leaves for that 2-minute timer, and in that 2-minute timer you get all the eliminations that you can to get another charge of your Aether Shroud. Essentially, if he comes down and you do not have an Aether Shroud or even plates or anything like that, well, unfortunately, you're probably going to fail this. I'm not kidding when I say that the Richtofen boss fight is extremely unfair. However, once you have gone through these steps and you've got Richtofen's health to about less than half, on this last one when he comes down, if you finally have an Aether Shroud, you should be able to take down almost the entire last half of his health in one go. And then if everything has been done correctly, congratulations, you have now soloed one of the hardest boss fights in COD Zombies history. However, that is going to be it for this guide. Hopefully it helped you out. So if it did, please help me out with a like and a share. I know this one took me far too long to get done and get this video out for you guys. However, beside that, don't forget to hit that follow so you don't miss out when I start covering Black Ops 7 content, because that is coming up sooner than you might think.